And I remember I saw the clip way before I saw the whole thing. And it was just like, it was framed like, yo, T.I. checks, just checks Candace Owens because she was talking crazy. And really, it wasn't until I watched the whole thing, I was like, to be honest, it was really two people on that stage making any sense. Right? It was you and Clearly Killer Mike, right?
And that's the whole thing. They don't want black people to see the whole thing. They look for these stupid cultural moments like, oh, that's it. That's all we need is that 5 seconds because God forbid Black America hears what everybody in that room heard, by the way. When that panel concluded, so many people came up to me in the audience and were like, I've never heard you in full form. Why don't you do more stuff like this? Why don't, I actually agree with a lot of what you were saying, because when you hear me in a longer form, then you go, oh, okay, actually I realize that the media keeps excerpting her and making her sound this way or that way. But why are they doing that is the bigger question. Why didn't they let that run in its entirety? Why weren't the headlines like Killer Mike and Candace, have an incredible discussion about Black America, father absence, and all of these topics? Why did we let this fool, who is the biggest, he is such a fraud. T.I. is I was just telling you before we started running, but that situation got me so angry because T.I. was the only person that I knew prior to stepping onto that stage. Kanye had introduced us, maybe the year prior. We had spoken on the phone for a lot, like hours on the phone about what our opinions are politically.
Felt like he was trying to dunk on you a lot.
It was crazy because when I spoke to him on the phone, he was like, I agree with you on this. I agree with you on this. I mean, agreed on everything we talked about. No debate. No debate. No pushback. The only thing he says was like, I just can't get behind Trump, right? That was the only thing he ever said on the phone. I can't get behind Trump. Every other topic we talked about Black America, he agreed with. He was so kind. We got on stage and he turned into like a performer. Like he literally put on a performer. So I say now T.I. is a fraud. He's a very little man physically, and mentally he's a small man, because to do that for what? There was nothing but, in that room, I was not jumping on stage being like, vote for Trump, right? I was not up there like, you got to be with Trump or against Trump. We were having a very real, honest discussion that Black America deserved to have on that stage, right? That they deserved to listen to and develop opinions. And he halted it by, acting like a goon.
Do you feel like you guys were like, I don't know, friends might be a stretch, but like if you guys were talking before, because I felt like he just met you that day.
Yeah.
And also, I really felt like he just completely hated everything you said.
Yeah, and he's a liar. He's a fraud and a liar. So, whenever I see headlines now about him and all the personal stuff he has going on, I'm like, I don't doubt anything, because anybody that can move like that, because to me, I don't care what your position is. If you are left and you believe what you say, I respect you for believing it, even if I disagree. He gets out there and says what he doesn't believe, right? And tries to create a moment, and he literally just became a performer on stage. Like, what does the crowd want? How can I get the crowd hyped up, even if I have to say stuff that I don't believe? That is so toxic for the Black community. That is so toxic.
I think that was also around the time where there was many things that, I don't know if it's still happening now, but it was definitely shown in the media a lot where, incidents with Black men and the police were happening. I would always see a long caption that T.I. would just write out. And I was like, oh wow, I think he's very interested, at least in some of the political ramification of what's happening in the Black community. So I'm like, all right, maybe that's where he was angling to. I think, and it's been so interesting watching so many of those people who seemingly was trying to fight that fight. Now they've completely pivoted.
Right.
He's doing comedy now,
Yeah.
Not saying doesn't.
He's a joke. I mean, he should be doing comedy. That is the correct space for him, because you're a joke. If you could spend hours and hours having a conversation, it's just, I don't understand.
Did you ever
people
talk to him again?
No. Because I don't.
He seems like a cool guy.
He's not, though. That's what I'm saying to you. He was a cool guy when I spoke to him and there were no cameras running. But if you're that inauthentic and that's how you live your life, I don't know how you sleep. You know what I mean? On the other hand, I didn't know Killer Mike from a hole in the wall. He has been the most authentic kind. We respectfully disagree on certain circumstances. He's so intelligent. We read all the same books. You will see him putting out different ideas. There are things I disagree with, but I can't not love Killer Mike. Killer Mike, honestly, I wish I could work with him in a bigger capacity, because I think that he is just the way he lives his life. It's positivity, it's love. He's got friends from all over, and he's authentic. And that's what matters most, is authenticity. The Black community is regularly being served the T.I.s. That's the problem. The T.I.s who will get out and say whatever to you when a microphone is in their face, knowing fully well they don't live that way and they don't believe that.
Yeah. I think T.I. has good intentions. I would hope. From what you're describing there, No. From what you're describing there, I mean, like, I would be, if me and you communicated privately and like we talked about some of the same, ideologies that either we might share or mine, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, I get it. And then we get on stage.
And I get up here and I'm like, what you talking about, man?
Like, you a sellout.
Yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we just agreed.
We've been talking for months. Yeah.
So you never talked to him after that?
No, I have such disdain for little men. I really do. And I'm not, I mean, like, he's a small man to me. Like, there's something, like, as a man, you don't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You'll just be like, no, I disagree with that. He literally got up and pretended like he had never heard these words before. They didn't know where I was coming from. I mean, it was wild.
I thought that would have put you off of a lot of conversations that would include and just be directed towards Black culture, because a lot of it does happen to be performative.
It is.
If I'm having a conversation with someone, and I've done this on the podcast before, and I'm like, you know what? I'm actually thinking about, like, if the election was today, I might vote Trump, and it's like performative stuff happened. Yo, you were selling, like, the conversation just stops. It's not like, okay, let's really talk through this. It just stops. You know what I mean?
Towing the line. Towing the line, because they're scared to lose followers. They're scared to be trashed in the comments. They're scared to lose a platform. Where do I go from here if I have an original thought? I just got to toe the line. What you're seeing is cowardice.
Has that ever been a situation for you where you're like, we've seen in some situations Twitter has silenced people or got them off the platform. They've been deplatformed.